Assalamualaikum. In this video, I'm going to discuss hardware specification of computer system by using CPU Z. That is a freeware system profiler application for Microsoft Windows XP, Vista, and Windows 7. It detects and collects information on the system's central processing unit, RAM, graphic video cards, motherboard chipset, and other hardware features common on computer systems. Windows does have a system information component that provides some of the same information, but it is nowhere near as robust and easy to use. Let's look in the CPU tab under processor name. The name is the name of processor I've installed in my computer. This is typically the name that the CPU is marketed under. In my case, I have an Intel Core i5-3437U. Next is the code name. The code name is represent the processor core architecture, that is IVY bridge. That is the code name for the third generation of the Intel Core processors. Next is MaxTDP. Maximum thermal design power is the maximum amount of power that the processor will use. In my case, it requires 17.0 watts. Package. Package shows the name of the motherboard socket your computer is designed to fit in. In my case, the package is socket 10323FCBGA. Technology. In this case, it is 22 nanometer. This means the processor was built using a 22 nanometer process technology. 1 nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter. The smaller the process technology used, the more transistor can be packed into the available space. This allows processor to become faster and use less energy with every generation. Core VID. Core VID is the voltage supplied to the CPU. VID is what Intel rates the chip at for clock speed. It was your motherboard used to know what core voltage to set. It's pretty much the same stock voltage of the chip for a given clock speed, and that is 0.8 to 111 volts. Specification. It shows the processor information. In my case, it's exact same as the name field above. Next is family and extended model. This section refers to the stepping information for the processor. This is used to determine the revision of the processor. Once a processor goes into production, as time, uh, a minor update and web faces are made to the processor. Each update in a step revision are called stepping. Instructions. It refers to the instruction set that the processor is capable of running. This is the basic set of commands or instructions that the processor is capable of understanding. In this case, the processor support MMX, SSE version 2, 3, 4.1, 4.2, and AVX. Next is under clock tab. It shows the core information of the processor cores. All cores are identical. Core speed. It is the frequency that the processor is running at. In this case, it shows 798.67 megahertz. Modern computers are speed rated in gigahertz, not megahertz. The processor speed is determined by taking the speed of the CPU bus multiplied with the multiplier. Rated FSB. FSB stands for front side bus. The FSB connects the computer processor to the system RAM and other components on motherboard. It is actually a ratio of the processor speed. Cache. Under cache tab, it shows the information on the cache that is on the processor. CPU cache is used to reduce the average time to access the memory. The cache is memory that is faster than main memory and is directly inside the CPU package. CPU store copies of the most frequently used data from main memory. Each core has its own 32 KB level 1 data and instruction cache and 256 KB of level 2 cache, and all cores share a 3 MB level 3 cache. At the bottom, it shows that this processor has 2 cores and can run 4 threads. Some processor supports hyper-threading, which allow them to run 2 threads on each core. We can skip the cache tab coming toward this, as the same information we just covered. Then coming toward the next tab, that is main board. The main board tab provides information on the motherboard. There is a manufacturer maker of the motherboard. In this case, that is Hewlett Packard. Model of the motherboard is 18DF with KBC version 62.18. Chipset is Intel with an Intel software. The chipset controls communication of between the processor and other devices on the motherboard. BIOS. BIOS stands for Basic Input and Output System. BIOS initialize and control the devices on the computer at the hardware level. Under the BIOS section, it lists the manufacturer of the BIOS along with the version and the date of the installed BIOS. In this case, the BIOS is manufactured by Hewlett Packard and its version is 681BD version F.48 with dated 1/13/2014. The next two tabs, memory and SPD, both provide information for the system memory, that is RAM. And let's look at the memory first. Under the general section type, here the memory interface type that is listed. In this case, the memory is DDR3, and it stands for double data rate. Next is size, that is 4 gigabytes of memory. Channel, it refers to the number of channel available to the memory controller. In this case, the channel is single. Next is timing table. Coming towards the DRAM frequency, that is the memory clock speed, and it stands for dynamic random access memory, and in this case it's 798.7 megahertz. The rest of information is all related to the cache latency. Basically, it is the measurement of the time between the moment a memory controller tells the memory module to access a particular memory column to the moment the data is available at the RAM's output pins. As a general, the lower the cache latency, the better. Then SPD tab contains additional information about the memory. Under memory selection slot, if you click the drop down, you will get information about the memory slots on the memory board. Slot 1 is empty, that can be used for expansion, and slot 2, the type is DDR3. Module size is the amount of memory on the RAM module on the entire system, that is the 4 GB. Max bandwidth, the module name is listed here. In this case, it is PC312800 clocked at 800 megahertz, and with manufacturer is Samsung. Then coming toward the next tab, that is graphics tab, that contain information regarding the graphics or video card installed in the system. Name is the retailer name for the graphic card. In this case, that is Intel HD Graphics 4000. Code name, this is the code name for the graphics code inside the video card. In this case, no code name is given. Technology, same as field on the CPU tab. This is the process geometry used in the manufacturing process. Bench. Under the bench tab, CPU single thread, that tells us they're running a single thread at a time. And bench tab have with multiple CPU multiple threading. We can change it from here. We can make the selection from here. Bench CPU. Bench CPU refers to this that stress CPU for a period of time and gives output as benchmark results. Stress CPU is a continuous cycle of stress when stop no output is given. This processor tab contains the manufacturer model of the CPU with speed, and reference tab gives a drop-down menu for the selection of the comparison of the different models, give the information about single threading and multi-threading in the system. Now we have general hardware understanding by using the CPU, and that's all for this video.